The Life of Flavius Josephus, chapter 11. But Gamala persevered in its allegiance to the Romans for the reason following. Philip, the son of Josephus, who was their governor under King Agrippa, had been unexpectedly preserved when the royal palace at Jerusalem had been besieged, but, as he fled away, had fallen into another danger, and that was of being killed by Menahem and the robbers that were with him. But certain Babylonians who were of his kindred and were then in Jerusalem hindered the robbers from executing their design. So Philip stayed there 4 days and fled away on the 5th, having disguised himself with fictitious hair that he might not be discovered. And when he was come to one of the villages to him belonging, but one that was situated at the borders of the citadel of Gamala, he sent to some of those that were under him and commanded them to come to him. But God himself hindered that his intention, and this for his own advantage also, for had it not so happened, he had certainly perished. For a fever having seized upon him immediately, he wrote to Agrippa and Bernice, and gave them to one of his freedmen to carry them to Varus, who at this time was procurator of the kingdom, which the king and his sister had entrusted him withal, while they were gone to Berytus with an intention of meeting Gessius. When Varus had received these letters of Philip, and had learnt that he was preserved, he was very uneasy at it, as supposing that he should appear useless to the king and his sister, now Philip was come. He therefore produced the carrier of the letters before the multitude, and accused him of forging the same, and said that he spake falsely when he related that Philip was at Jerusalem, fighting among the Jews against the Romans. So he slew him. And when this freedman of Philip did not return again, Philip was doubtful what should be the occasion of his stay, and sent a second messenger with letters, that he might, upon his return, inform him what had befallen the other that had been sent before, and why he tarried so long. Varus accused this messenger also, when he came, of telling a falsehood, and slew him. For he was puffed up by the Syrians that were at Caesarea, and had great expectations. For they said that Agrippa would be slain by the Romans for the crimes which the Jews had committed, and that he should himself take the government, as derived from their kings. For Varus was, by the confession of all, of the royal family, as being a descendant of Sohemus, who had enjoyed a tetrarchy about Libanus. For which reason it was that he was puffed up, and kept the letters to himself. He contrived also that the king should not meet with those writings, by guarding all the passes, lest anyone should escape, and inform the king what had been done. He moreover slew many of the Jews, in order to gratify the Syrians of Caesarea. He had a mind also to join with the Trachonites in Batanea, and to take up arms and make an assault upon the Babylonian Jews that were at Ecbatana, for that was the name they went by. He therefore called to him 12 of the Jews of Caesarea of the best character, and ordered them to go to Ecbatana, and inform their countrymen who dwelt there, that Varus hath heard that you intend to march against the king. But, not believing that report, he hath sent us to persuade you to lay down your arms, and that this compliance will be a sign that he did well not to give credit to those that raised the report concerning you. He also enjoined them to send 70 of their principal men to make a defense for them as to the accusation laid against them. So when the 12 messengers came to their countrymen at Ecbatana, and found that they had no designs of innovation at all, they persuaded them to send the 70 men also, who, not at all suspecting what would come, sent them accordingly. So these 70 went down to Caesarea, together with the 12 ambassadors, where Varus met them with the king's forces, and slew them altogether with the 12 ambassadors, and made an expedition against the Jews at Ecbatana. But one there was of the 70 who escaped, and made haste to inform the Jews of their coming, upon which they took their arms with their wives and children, and retired to the citadel at Gamala, leaving their own villages full of all sorts of good things, and having many 10,000 of cattle therein. When Philip was informed of these things, he also came to the citadel of Gamala, and when he was come, the multitude cried aloud, and desired him to resume the government, and to make an expedition against Varus and the Syrians of Caesarea, for it was reported that they had slain the king. But Philip restrained their zeal, and put them in mind of the benefits the king had bestowed upon them, and told them how powerful the Romans were, and said it was not for their advantage to make war with them. And at length he prevailed with them. But now, when the king was acquainted with Varus's design, which was to cut off the Jews of Caesarea, being many 10,000s, with their wives and children, and all in one day, he called to him Aquiculus Modius, and sent him to be Varus's successor, as we have elsewhere related. But still Philip kept possession of the citadel of Gamala and of the country adjoining to it, which thereby continued in their allegiance to the Romans.